They assigned me to Waste Sector 7 because no one else wanted it. Said the air there clung to skin like fungus. Said the work did things to a man's soul. I didn't argue. I needed credits. And truth be told, I didn't mind being forgotten. No cameras, no officials, no rules. It was quiet most shifts, just me, the whir of gravity compressors, and the endless groan of decomposing tech and living refuse. Out here on Port Dagon, a mining junction tucked near the Androxian expanse, they dumped everything unwanted. Food, broken machines, dead things, sometimes not so dead. That morning, the loader jammed. Again. I climbed the chute tower with a half-hearted sigh and a utility bar slung across my shoulder. Figured it was another busted panel or maybe a melted food tray tangled in the venting coils. But then I saw the fingers, thin, clawed, twitching. I froze. For a second I thought it was mechanical, a crawler bot maybe. But when I peered closer, I caught the shimmer of translucent skin beneath layers of compacted grime. Not dirt, sludge, reeking of rust and rotten protein. The kind of filth that cakes over time like it had been baked into her. She didn't move when I called out. Just lay there, curled in the fetal position between shards of broken plasma piping and a crusted-over waste sack stamped with the trade union logo. I slid down beside her, careful not to disturb her too much. She was breathing. Barely. Her chest rose in shallow intervals, each breath so faint it was almost invisible. Her clothes, or what remained of them, were a patchwork of torn synth fiber and crude leather bindings. Standardized slave wrappings from the outer sectors. She wasn't even supposed to be here. Cargo like her didn't just end up in a garbage chute unless someone wanted her gone without a trace. I hesitated, hand hovering above her shoulder. Can you hear me? Nothing. Not. Even a blink, the smell was unbearable. Whatever species she was, her natural scent mixed with the decaying matter surrounding her had fused into something unholy. But beneath the layers of grime, under the soot and residue, I saw it. Gold. Her eyes opened slowly, just slits at first. Then fully, irises like polished obsidian rimmed with molten amber. Not a flicker of fear, just exhaustion, acceptance, like she expected me to kill her. No, I muttered. No one's dying in my chute today. Getting her out wasn't easy. I had to time the lift sequence with the blind spots of the watchtower drones. If anyone saw me dragging her through the waste corridor, I'd be fined, arrested, or worse, demoted to maintenance deck scrubbing. She was an undocumented life form, probably unregistered. That meant contraband. I didn't care. I brought her into my quarters, a shipping container converted into a studio-size bunk nestled under the ductwork. Warm lights buzzed. Steam hissed through corroded valves. Not much to look at, but it had running water and enough space for her to lie down. Later on my cot, she didn't resist, just curled tighter as if even soft bedding terrified her. I reached for a rag, then stopped. This wasn't a job for a rag. The shower stall in my room had barely worked since I rigged it from 3 salvaged military purifiers and a stolen water filter. Still it functioned. Hot water, sterile cleanser, privacy seal. She tensed when I lifted her. I whispered every movement, made sure she saw my hands first. Not going to hurt you. Just getting you clean. Her skin was mottled, not from bruises, but from dirt etched into her pores. Scars ran across her shoulders like someone had whipped her with plasma wire. One of her feet had metal plates embedded under the heel, a tracking mod, now half-fried. Her hair, if you could call it that, was a mess of matted tendrils crusted with ash. I stepped into the stall with her, clothes soaked, water running down my face. The grime came off slowly, swirling down the drain in clumps of gray and black. Then something happened. Her eyes met mine. For the first time she saw me. A flicker of light returned to her gaze, like the fog behind them had started to clear. She didn't speak, but her fingers reached out, trembling, and gripped the fabric of my sleeve. Not tightly, just enough to say, "Don't leave." It took an hour to wash her, another to untangle what remained of her hair. She said nothing the whole time, not a word. But the way her chest rose slower, deeper. I knew she was stabilizing, rehydrating, healing. Once she was clean, I wrapped her in a thermal blanket and sat her down on the only chair I had. She looked different now, not just cleaner, beautiful in a wild, unworldly way. Skin like pale, violet sandstone. Eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Thin bioluminescent lines traced across her collarbone and up her neck, visible only in the dimness of the room. She was young, maybe equivalent to 20 in Earth years. But those eyes carried lifetimes of pain. I heated some broth, powdered ration mix flavored with artificial spices. She sniffed it, then sipped. Complaints, just silence. Then, a sound, soft, broken. Why? One word, barely audible. Her voice sounded like wind through chimes, delicate, fragile, musical. I sat beside her. Why what? She looked down. Her hands trembled. Why? Help. Me? I stared at her. What could I say? That she reminded me of the dog I once found on Earth, bleeding in the alley, and carried home despite my father's orders. That I saw too much of myself in her, discarded, unwanted, too strange. For the world? That she was the first living thing that had looked at me in months without disgust. Instead, I just shrugged. Because no one else did. She blinked. Slowly. Then looked at the shower stall, still dripping with the remnants of her past. I was thrown away. I know. She turned toward me, voice cracking. I don't remember. My name. Then we'll find you a new one. She shook her head. Names are given, earned. Then we'll earn it together. The next few hours passed in quiet understanding. She slept, curled into the blanket, like it was the only soft thing she'd ever touched. I stayed awake, watching the monitors, listening to the hum of the station. Her presence changed the air in my quarters. Not just physically, emotionally. Something sacred lingered. As if in saving her, I'd unlocked a piece of myself I didn't know had fossilized. I didn't sleep that night, not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. Because for the first time in years, I had something worth protecting, and I had a feeling. She was far more important than anyone knew. I didn't think I'd see her smile. Not after what she'd been through. Not after the stench of death and humiliation that had clung to her like a second skin. But the next morning, after hours of sleep wrapped in heat and safety, she opened. Her eyes blinked slowly, and smiled at the sunlight peeking through the cracked steel of my wall. It was faint, small, a twitch of the lips, a softening of her angular features. But it was real. I stood in the corner of the room, sipping synthetic, calf pretending not to notice. Her gaze traveled over every inch of the room like a child seeing color for the first time. The frayed power cables, the steam-piped wall heater, the broken analog fan humming in the corner. All of it, miraculous. She looked like someone discovering a new world. Like this small, damp scrap metal box was the first home she'd ever known. Didn't sleep long, I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to me. She tilted her head. Long enough. Her voice, more fluid now. Gentle, but with a kind of deliberate cadence, as if each word had to be chosen with care. I gestured to the steaming bowl of grain mush I'd prepped from my emergency rations. Eat. You're still running on fumes. She nodded, sat up carefully, and pulled the bowl close. She didn't devour it, just took measured spoonfuls, pausing between each bite. Eyes always watching me, studying. I sat on the floor opposite her, cross-legged, leaning against the Durasteel plating. I'm Leo, I said. Leo Marique, engineer, deckhand, part-time trash collector. Her lips parted slightly. Leo, she echoed. Marique. Close enough. I waited a moment. And you? Her eyes fell again. She stirred her food. No. Name. You said names are earned. She nodded, spoon held midair. In my world, Names are sacred, a right, given when the soul speaks its truth. Can I call you something in the meantime? Silence. Then a whisper. Call me Kira. I blinked. That your soul speaking? A shrug. It's a sound that feels warm. Kira. It suited her. The next day, I gave her the second shower. This time she walked to it on her own. No trembling. No hesitation. She stood under the stream like it was holy rain from an ancient god. Her fingers traced the droplets as if memorizing their path. I turned away, giving her privacy, but in the small mirror slotted into the steel plating I caught glimpses, her body still marked with fresh and ancient wounds. Starburst burns, branding rings, laceration scars crisscrossing her ribs. But the grime was gone. Now her skin shimmered faintly under the light like the surface of a quiet ocean beneath twin moons. Her hair, cleaned and combed, fell in strands of inky midnight blue threaded with silver roots. Bioluminescent veins beneath her skin pulsed gently, in rhythm with her breath. She emerged from the stall wrapped in a blanket, her posture straighter than the day before. Something had shifted. She wasn't just surviving, she was reclaiming. Over the next 3 days, Kira barely spoke, but her silence wasn't emptiness. It was processing. She watched me rewire a broken exhaust vent. She mimicked my hand motions when I calibrated the heat dampeners. She pointed at tools and asked for their names. Wrench, I'd say. War and za, she'd repeat, lips curling at the odd shape of the word. One evening, while I soldered a light panel, she surprised me. You fixed broken things before me? I froze, soldering iron midair. Sometimes. She sat beside me, fingers brushing against copper filaments. Then I'm just another thing. No, I said, softly but firmly. You're not a thing. She didn't reply. But that night, I woke to find her sitting inches from me, arms wrapped around her knees, just watching me sleep. We started forming a rhythm. I'd leave early for shift work in the ventilation ducts or waste processors. She stayed hidden in the room, the door sealed with a biometric pad I rigged to recognize only me. I'd return to find her trying to read the interface on my tablet, or organizing wires by color, or listening to old earth jazz through my cracked audio speakers, swaying like she was learning to dance from a dream she'd once forgotten. But the peace couldn't last forever. Not on Port Dagon. Not with something like her. The first red flag came when Chief Rindle, the outpost enforcer, cornered me outside the supply terminal. He was a tower of meat and cybernetics, more machine than man. One eye glowed crimson. His voice was smoke and steel. Merrick. I nodded slowly. Chief. Cargo manifest reports. A biosample missing from Dock 9. Female exotic, possibly escaped or improperly disposed of. I kept my face blank. Doesn't sound like my department. No, but it smells like your kind of mess. My kind? He sneered. The kind that feels sorry for trash. I held his stare. He stepped closer. If you find anything, anyone, you report it, or you go in with it. I'll keep that in mind. He left. The metal floor vibrated with every step he took. I returned to the room and locked the door behind me with shaking hands. Kira sat on the bed, sensing the shift in my energy. They're looking for me. Yes. Will you give me back? I walked to her, knelt at her feet. No. Then, they'll kill you. I smiled faintly. You're not the first thing worth dying for. She didn't blink. You're the first thing worth living for. That night, I asked her to tell me her story. She hesitated, then unwrapped the blanket and stretched her hand out. Her fingers grazed my temple. Memories flooded in, a jungle of silver trees, a planet swallowed in light, a village singing at twilight, then fire, chains, a marketplace of screaming voices, sold to a collector who prized the rare and voiceless, drugged, caged. transported across the stars in a stasis pod that malfunctioned mid-route, spilling her into a cargo pile meant for incineration. The last image, a chute opening. The sensation of falling into darkness. Then, me water. Warmth. A name. I gasped and pulled back. She watched me with wide, solemn eyes. "You see me now," she whispered. "I do." "You feel it?" I nodded. My chest ached with the weight of her pain. My arms itched to hold her, but I didn't. Instead, I said, "We can't stay here." She tilted her head. "They'll come, they'll scan every room, tear apart every deck. Once they figure out I bypassed the registry locks, we're both dead." "What then?" I stood pacing. "I have an old hauler, hidden, broken, but I've been repairing it for months. Thought I'd use it to vanish one day. That day might be today." She stood too, clutching the blanket tighter. "Where would we go? Anywhere. Everywhere. Somewhere where no one cares what you look like." She reached out, her hand sliding into mine. "I'll follow." We made the decision in silence. No dramatics, no pleas. Only understanding. The next dawn, I packed what I could. Nutrient packs, data chips, tools, a single photo of my brother. Kira wrapped herself in my old work uniform, hood drawn up. She walked beside me like a shadow. We took maintenance corridors, avoided scanners, timed every turn to the second. When we reached the hauler, rusted, dented but alive, she gasped softly. "This will fly?" Like a miracle with a limp. I powered it up. The engines hummed, lights flickered, systems groaned back to life. Kira sat in the co-pilot's chair, eyes wide, hands tracing every control like they were ancient relics. We took off slow, slipping into the traffic corridor like another junker bound for scavenger duty. No alarms, no chasers. Not yet. As the stars swallowed us, Kira leaned back and closed her eyes, then said quietly, "This is the second time you washed me clean." I smiled. "No. This time, you stood on your own. I never intended to become a fugitive, not the outlaw kind. Not the ones that ran guns, stole ships, or trafficked data shards from outlaw moons. No. My crime was more subtle. I helped someone no one else dared touch. And now the universe wanted me punished for it." Kira and I spent the first 20 hours drifting through the Larsa belt, cloaked by asteroid debris and weak sensor echoes. My hauler, the Ardent Whisper, was too old to be suspicious, too patched to be worth chasing. We sat in silence mostly, her curled in the passenger berth, knees tucked to her chest. I monitored scanners and muttered coordinates to myself, watching for patrols. Every so often I'd glance at her, eyes closed, breathing steady. But I knew she wasn't asleep. Not really. She was remembering. She was always remembering. By day 2, I found her in the engine hold, examining the pulse coil. "You're not just watching anymore," I said. "You're learning." She didn't look up. "I like how it breathes." "How what breathes?" She touched the thrumming metal casing. "This. Your ship. It has soul rhythms." I laughed quietly. "That's one way to put it." She turned, expression unreadable. "Do you think I can fix things too?" "I think you already are." We kept moving. I plotted a path past the Soren trade routes, skirting Republic borders, dipping into old pirate lanes now half abandoned. My plan? Find an outpost with a broken registry system, something ancient, forgotten, a place where names were fluid, papers were bought with favor, and alien girls didn't draw fire for breathing. One such place was rumored deep in the Derek Expanse, Laskovar, they called it. A rock station turned neutral haven, governed by code, not empire. If we could reach it, we'd have a chance. But chances, I've learned, come with a price. On the 6th day, the trouble found us. Not at the edge of a system, not in the dark void, between stars. No, it came as a ping. Subtle, tiny. A system handshake, innocent to most. But I knew better. They're tracing us, I muttered, fingers flying across the nav pad. Someone just tried to ghost handshake our transponder. Means they got a vector on us. Kira sat upright, alarmed. What does that mean? Means someone wants us. Badly. I swerved the ardent whisper through a solar wake and rerouted power to the dorsal plating. An old trick that scrambled. Incoming scans. But the moment I dropped us into drift, I felt it. The pull. They were locking in. From the cockpit viewport, I saw them emerge. 3 gliders. Sleek. Silver. Like steel wasps with folded wings. Republic bounty drones. Not just trackers. Enforcers. They're going to try to board us, I said. They'll disable our core and siphon entry. Then we run? Kira asked. I grinned grimly. No, we fight. My ship wasn't a warbird. It didn't have turrets or missile bays. But it had me, and I had scrap-born ingenuity. I activated the magnetic debris cage, a field of false mass that made us appear as fragmented salvage. Then, as the drone circled, I initiated pulse inversion, a trick only used by smugglers too poor for real stealth. The moment their lead ship scanned us, the signal bounced, blinding their sensors, feeding them false visuals. They blinked, hesitated. That was enough. I punched the throttle. Kira screamed as we twisted through an asteroid cluster, the Whisper's hull screeching as fragments glanced off our side plating. The gliders scrambled to follow, but I weaved between rocks too narrow for them. One clipped a shard, spiraled, another hesitated, then backed off. Only the leader remained. It matched every move, mimicked every thrust. Persistent bastard. I growled. Then I saw it, an ion pocket forming in the belt center, a natural plasma storm invisible to most sensors. I dove in. He followed. Big mistake. Static swallowed the air. Lightning laced the void. My ship trembled. Kira grabbed the co-pilot seat, knuckles white. Leo, hold. The drone passed through the storm edge and its systems fried instantly. Lights exploded across its hull. Its core sputtered, ruptured. And then, silence. Nothing. We emerged, panting, into calm drift space. Kira turned to me, wide-eyed. You destroyed it. No. Nature did. I just showed it the door. That night we anchored in an asteroid cavern and shut down all emissions. No comms, no heat trails, no light beyond our small lamp. Kira sat beside me, knees pulled up. She was quieter than usual. I offered her half a ration bar. You okay? She didn't answer at first, then softly, Why? Why what? Why do you risk everything for me? I exhaled, leaning back against the console. You were thrown away, I said. Tossed like junk. You could have died in a pile of filth, but you didn't. You looked at me with eyes full of life. You wanted to understand. You wanted to try. She said nothing. I looked at her. They called you filthy, but you were never dirty. They were. Her hand slid over mine. Leo, she whispered. You're the only one who didn't look at me like a weapon or a burden. Because you're neither. Then, what am I? I looked at her, truly looked. You're hope. You're what we forgot we could be. The next morning she surprised me. She wore one of my jackets. Her hair was tied up in a messy knot, and in her hands, my toolkit. I want to learn how to fly. I blinked. What? I want to fly, not just ride. I smiled. Okay, student pilot. Lesson 1, don't crash. She grinned. It was the first time I'd seen her do that. Really, truly smile. As we resumed our journey, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. She wasn't just running anymore. She was becoming someone, but peace is never constant in space. And not all enemies wear metal. Some wear faces, familiar ones. Just as we reached the outer orbit of Lascavar, I saw the impossible. A Republic patrol ship, bigger than a drone, bristling with weapons. And behind the glass of its bridge, Commander Arden Marik, my brother, he hailed us. I didn't answer. The transmission repeated. Kira looked at me. Who is that? I closed my eyes. The man who taught me everything I swore I'd never become. His voice came through the static, clear, commanding, nostalgic. Leontis, shut down your drive. Prepare for boarding. I hadn't heard my name in his voice since I left the military. Commander Arden Marik, my older brother by birth, my superior, by rank and the man I once idolized, hovered above us in the CRS Vigilant, a war-class pursuit vessel that didn't appear by coincidence. He wasn't just here to scan cargo. He knew. You won't answer? Kira asked, staring at the console, hands trembling slightly. I shook my head, fingers tightening around the flight yoke. I know his games. He wants me to blink first. If we power down, they'll tether us. Detain. Separate. You know him? My brother. Kira's eyes widened. Yeah. We served together. Fought side by side. I left when I stopped believing in what he fought for. She looked out at the looming cruiser. He'll destroy us? If protocol says to. If command tells him I'm harboring an enemy. If it means keeping his perfect record spotless. Yes. The hail pinged again. Last warning, Leo. I know you're in there. Don't make me force this. His voice was firm, cold, laced with old disappointment. I opened a private channel. Just between us. You always were dramatic, I said flatly. The silence on his end stretched long. Then, you could have called. So could you. You've got a war criminal on your ship. She's a girl. She's classified. She's innocent. She's not human. That one stung. Kira flinched beside me as though struck. I leaned forward, fury boiling in my chest. She has a name. Kira. She speaks more truth in 10 words than your whole squad does in 10. Pages of reports. You're deluded, emotionally compromised. And you're a bootlicking shell. Enough. His voice cracked through the comm. This is your last chance. Or what? He hesitated, then gave the order. Engage tractor beam. The pull was immediate. Blue light flooded through the hull. Our engines strained. The ardent whisper groaned like it was screaming. Kira grabbed my arm. Leo. We're not done yet. I diverted auxiliary power from life support, rerouted plasma through the lateral coils, and spiked our signature, a dangerous burst that scattered the beam's lock. Alarms screamed on both ships. The tether snapped. We tumbled into freefall, spiraling toward the gravity well of Lascavar. Kira was gasping. That broke something. I checked the readouts. Engine 2's out, hull pressure's unstable. We can't outrun them, but maybe we can outmaneuver them. I punched coordinates into the nav core. We dive into Lascavar's lower orbit. The radiation belt will fry their sensors, but it'll fry us too. Not if we hug the debris line. She gave a shaky laugh. You're insane. Compliment accepted. We dove. The ship skidded through gravitational eddies. Lascavar's, massive ring-casting shimmering waves of static across the viewports. Behind us, the Vigilant fired pulse dampeners. Energy bursts designed to disable rather than destroy. One clipped our aft. The lights flickered. Smoke poured from vent seams. Kira gritted her teeth. What do we do if they land? I stared at her. We don't let them. We clipped into the rings, a sea of shattered satellites and orbital trash. The chaos hit us, confused their signals. But the Whisper wasn't built for this kind of flight. Panels rattled. Thrusters whined. I felt every bolt scream. Kira gripped the side rail. Leo, your brother, he won't stop. I know. We scraped out of the debris line and dove toward the equator-side landing port of Lascavar. The haven was visible now, a battered ring station coiled like a serpent, ancient, grimy, but free. I hailed them on the black channel. No codes, just the phrase, strays seeking shade. A pause, Then a reply. No weapons, no heat. Drift and dock. You're ghosted. Lascovar accepted us. My brother didn't. His cruiser paused in high orbit, unable to follow without violating Lascovar's sovereignty. He sent one final message. You're lost, Leo. Whatever she's done to you, whatever you think you're saving, you're only delaying the inevitable. She's not the one who's changed Arden. You are. I killed the feed. The docking clamps closed around the ardent whisper like a protective cocoon. The airlock hissed, then opened into dim, rusted corridors laced with glowing fungi and flickering LED strips. The smell of coolant and spice lingered. Kira looked around wide-eyed. This is home? I smiled grimly. This is freedom. We walked through the station slowly. Traders passed us, some curious, others indifferent. A three-eyed woman with bioluminescent tattoos nodded at Kira. A cloaked man selling neural links tipped his head. No judgment, just survival. That was Lascovar. Found a room, cramped, metal-walled, a single cot and an old terminal. Kira looked at me. I thought your brother would kill us. Me too. Do you hate him? I paused. I hate what he became. She sat cross-legged on the cot, toying with a wiring coil she'd taken from the whisper. I used to think your kind were monsters, she said quietly. That's what they told us. Who's they? The ones who took me. Scientists, officials, they experimented, cut pieces off me, said I was dangerous because I dreamed. I clenched my fists. You never told me that. She looked at me. Her eyes glimmered, not with tears but light. Because you never asked what I am. I don't care. But you should. Because I'm not the only one. She opened her hand. Inside, a shard. No bigger than a coin. Glowing violet. What is that? My memory, I stared. You stored your thoughts? Not mine alone. The shard pulsed. There are others like me. Hidden. Buried. Waiting. Some think the war's over, but it isn't. It just went underground. My voice felt thin. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't trust anyone until I met someone who looked past dirt and blood and offered me soap and silence. I couldn't speak. She rose, walked to the window, stared out at the stars. When you cleaned me, she whispered, you didn't just give me dignity. You gave me reason. For what? To fight back. That night, as Lascovar rotated slowly above the twilight face of the planet below, we sat side by side, silent. My brother had failed to tear us apart. But something bigger loomed ahead. Not law, not war, revelation. Kira was more than a runaway, more than a victim. She was a message, and I was the only one still listening. You don't realize you're walking through a door until it slams behind you. And when it does, you're no longer who you were on the other side. The memory shard vibrated against my palm, warm, almost alive. It's organic? I asked, examining the glowing violet surface. Like living code? Kira nodded solemnly, her voice gentle but firm. It's not just memories, it's consciousness. Pieces of mine, fragments of others, thoughts we weren't allowed to keep. She reached over and guided the shard toward the whisper's neural interface port. Wait, I said. That thing could fry the whole ship. Her fingers paused, mid-air. Or it could show you what they did to us, to her, to countless others. I nodded. Do it. The moment the shard connected, the cockpit dimmed. Lights flickered. The nav screen turned obsidian. Then, a pulse of sound, not a scream. A chorus, voices layered across time. A face appeared on the glass, not Kira's, older, sharper. Angular features marked with scars and glowing runes across her jaw. She was my sister, Kira whispered, watching the projection. She started the memory net before they took her. The image blinked, and then a row of translucent pods stretched into shadowed infinity. Inside each one, children, alien, human, hybrid, sleeping, wired, labeled, Technicians with stone faces moved between pods. Needles, lasers, monitors, every expression clinical. Emotionless in one pod, Kira, smaller, fragile, eyes open but unfocused. An audio overlay played, a machine word, a pulse of red. Kira convulsed. I lurched back, chest heaving. Turn it off. She didn't move. You need to see more. The scene shifted. Chaos, alarms, screaming. 3 young beings, one with skin like woven glass, another with spiraling antlers, and Kira raced down a corridor of flashing red light. One fell, shot by a stun lance. Kira turned, ran back, tried to lift them. A guard struck her down. They told us dreaming was the disease, she said softly, as the memory bled into silence. But it wasn't. It was the cure. The image faded. The whisper rebooted. Lights returned. I stared at her. How did you escape? She reached into her jacket, pulling out a locket. Inside, burnt cloth and a single piece of bone. My sister gave me her last breath. She collapsed the wall around. My pod took 3 guards with her. I touched the locket reverently. Your sister? Was she the first rebel? No, Kira said. But she was the first to remember who she used to be before they took everything. That night, in the dim light of Lascavar's decaying guest quarters, we laid the shard on. The terminal again, I want to help, I said. She looked at me like I'd grown wings. Why? Because if no one believes in you, then I have to. The next morning we headed to the undermarket, a labyrinth below the ring's rotation core, where forgotten tech and forbidden information flowed like currency. We needed access to the Echo Array, a signal booster powerful enough to transmit the shard's contents across 12 systems. If we broadcasted Kira's memories, others might wake up, others might rebel, but the array wasn't just guarded, it was owned. Where are we headed exactly? I asked, slipping through a grate into the undermarket's neon-lit belly. Kira adjusted the scarf around her head. To see someone who owes my sister a favor. That someone turned out to be Sev Thorne, a half-machine info broker with a mouthful of data chips and a cybernetic hawk perched on his shoulder. He grinned when he saw us. Didn't expect to see dead royalty walking, he said, eyeing Kira. I'm not dead. Could have fooled me. What's the ask? The array, Sev whistled. That ain't a small thing, that's treason, sweetheart. I stepped in. We'll pay. With what? He snorted. That hunk of junk you fly or your smooth voice? Kira pulled the locket from her neck. This, Sev's eyes widened. Is that my sister's mark? Kira confirmed. Sev stared, silent, then nodded. Deal. The plan was simple. Plug the shard into the Echo Array. Broadcast the memories to Rebel Network's secret sleeper cells and forgotten colonies. Light the match. What we didn't know, someone else was already listening. That night, as Sev wired us into the console, the array began humming, an electric choir of static and anticipation. Kira slid the shard into the interface. The broadcast began. Visions exploded across distant skies. Memories danced in orbit. Truth flooded forgotten systems like wildfire. And somewhere deep within a black site lab, other prisoners heard her voice, woke up, screamed, fought back. But we celebrated too soon. A flash, a siren, an alert. Sev hadn't expected. They're tracking the signal, he muttered. Someone piggybacked the pulse, traced it back. Who? I demanded. He pointed toward the ceiling. Your brother. The whisper's comms lit up. Leo, this is Commander Merrick. You are officially designated an insurgent accomplice. Surrender immediately. Kira's jaw clenched. I grabbed the shard. There's a silence that comes before every war. Not peace, not calm, but that taut, aching breath where everything holds itself still, just before the universe screams. We streaked into the void, stars tearing past like sparks off a burning fuse. Behind us, the undermarket collapsed inward, choking on smoke and secrets. Ahead, open sky, no destination, just escape. But escape was an illusion. because now we weren't running from anything. We were running toward the end. Kira leaned over the console, teeth gritted, every breath a vow. They'll follow, I said. She didn't look at me. Then we give them a reason. Inside the whisper's core, the memory shard pulsed, its violet glow brighter than before. Alive, thrumming with intent. Kira reached toward it, and her fingers brushed the crystal's edge. It didn't burn this time. It bonded. Her eyes flickered white. Pupils vanished, replaced by starlight. Kira? She spoke, but the voice was layered. Hers, and a dozen others, all speaking in unison. The dream is awake. The shard signal had done more than broadcast. It had unlocked something. A deeper layer, a tether between every stolen mind, every captive dreamer. And now, they were linked. Awake. Listening. Alarms screamed through the whisper. Hostiles. Incoming, I muttered. Multiple warbirds, fast approach. She blinked, the starlight fading from her eyes. They're scared, she said. He's scared. Kira nodded. Your brother can't control what he doesn't understand. He's coming to erase the evidence. Me. I looked down at the cockpit's display. 6 red blips, all converging. We cut through a nebula field, weaving between plasma arcs and storm lightning. Missiles swirled behind us like furious insects, hungry for metal, hungry for us. Shield breach imminent, the ship's AI chirped. I ignored it. Kira slid into the co-pilot seat, eyes closed. What are you doing? I asked. She whispered. Listening. Suddenly the whisper jolted. Every screen went dark, then lit up again, but not with radar. Not with diagnostics, with faces, thousands, some human, some like Kira, others too strange for words. They were all watching, all awake. We found each other, she murmured. They're speaking again. And then, through the static, we're here. From behind the hostile fleet, ships appeared, old, broken, repurposed, but fast and angry. Rebel vessels, dozens, hundreds. Kira looked at me, tears streaking silently down her cheeks. They remembered. The stars lit up in battle. I've never seen anything like it. The Empire's pristine gunships, sleek, sharp, surgical, met a wall of chaos. Patched freighters, stealth scouts, even reprogrammed mining rigs armed with fusion torches. They didn't fight for territory. They fought for truth, for her. The whisper dove through wreckage, evading fire as we aimed straight for the flagship. I knew who was on board. So did she. Are you sure? I asked, glancing at her. Kira held the shard in her, palm light pulsing like a heartbeat. Yes. We pierced the ship's hangar at full throttle. Landing gear cracked, hull groaned. But we made it. Inside, silence. Then boots, dozens. He stepped forward. Commander Merrick, my brother, still flawless in his uniform, still as cold as when he ordered our father's memory erased. You disappoint me, Leo, he said. You programmed me to. His eyes flicked to Kira. The abomination lives. Kira stepped forward. You're the one who made us monsters. He raised a pulse gun. Goodbye. But she moved faster. The shard flashed. Sound twisted. Time bent sideways. Suddenly, he froze. Literally. Mid-blink. His entire body suspended, trapped in a field of luminous energy. Kira's voice shook as she spoke. Every command you gave, every override you forced, we remember. We forgive. None? He trembled, aging before our eyes, no longer powerful, just human, just broken. She turned away. Let him live with it, she whispered. We ran. Explosions rocked the flagship as rebels pierced its hull. The whisper, scorched but intact, waited. As we launched, I looked back one last time, the Empire's crown jewel, unraveling like an overripe fruit. And for the first time since I was born, I didn't want to go back. We jumped systems, again and again. No destination, just movement, momentum. But we weren't alone. Across the stars, Her people rose. One outpost became 10, then 100. She spoke to them through the shard, through dream, through memory. We landed on a forgotten moon, thick with moss and light, built a home from scavenged alloys, soft metals, glass veins, no thrones, no flags, just peace. One morning, as I was tightening a solar conduit, she walked up behind me. Kira, now unscarred, eyes bright, still fierce, but finally free, she placed the shard in my hand. "It's done," she said. "I don't need it anymore." I looked at her. "What now?" She smiled. "We build new memories." And so we did. No one ever talks about the man who gave the filthy alien girl a shower. No one remembers how the universe changed because two people saw each other through the grime, but I remember everything.